So before Anne joined, she also want to do the mock interview. Guys, if anyone else want to do this mock interview, let us know. Are you guys all in our crushing interview website? Have you joined to this? So I just want to tell you guys, we just moved to this website. So what we're gonna do on this website, first, obviously, we'll host all these events like this. That's the first one. Second one, we're gonna develop the interviewing community for the interviewing skills, right? So if you haven't joined, I mean, you should probably, but stick to this community. We'll post there like interviewing stories, content, like learning content as well. And don't hesitate to post any questions, especially, I think that would be especially relevant to people who just going into their first QA job, so, or to development job. Post, because we have hiring managers who can help you out, like with it's like EMA, ask me anything, right? So you can post anything. We'll try to help you out to answer those questions. All right. Anne, are you here? I don't see you.
Hello, yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, I don't will share my resume because I just it's first time for me today.
Don't worry about this at all. You know, before we're going to start, tell us a little bit about like what are you looking? Your little bit about your background, and then we start obviously like the market.
Yes. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity for interviewing this today. And I'm looking for manual position because I just finished my courses. It's 2 months 2 months ago, and I actively sent application to the company, and I have some interview with companies, but I can't pass my technical skills. I mean technical interview. It's second interview. And maybe in behavior questions too. Sometimes I have some tricky questions, you know, and I don't have some way to how can I answer on these questions.
Okay, yeah, totally makes sense. And I've been in your shoes, like when, I mean, we all been in your shoes when you're searching for the first job. It's the most challenging part. Like another analogy, one millionaire or billionaire told me, he told like, don't ask me how I got the first million. Ask me anything else, but don't ask me how I got my first million. So the same thing, don't ask me how I got my first job because it was tough and it's a hustle. So yeah, we were in your shoes, so don't worry about that. Question though, like how many interviews you already had?
I had full it's about five interview. It was with recruiters. Second time it's with managers, and QA team as technical. Yes.
5 interviews in one company or 5 interviews with 5 companies?
Five companies, and I had 2 interview, maybe 3 interview. It's a different in different companies, different steps, you know.
Okay, great. So I'll tell you right away, that's a great progress. It gives me an idea that so far in the 2 months you had 5 interviews with real companies. So yeah, it's a good indication. Don't get discouraged. It actually should be encouraging because the more you go, the closer you will be to the interview, right? or to getting the job offer. So that's the first thing. The second thing, that you getting really close to that because you already had the technical interviews, even you failed them. So we'll get back to that, obviously, with the mock interview, but this is another good indication. So you are very close to getting a job offer, because especially in our market right now, market is horrible, to be honest, right? Like a lot of layoffs, big competition, a lot of bootcamp graduates, and et cetera, right? So the market of demand and supply is not on on the candidate side, obviously, but that's a great indication for you. Anyway, there just a little thoughts before you're going to start. All right, Anna, please tell us about yourself and about your last project.
Okay. While being PPA for 4 years, I worked for different projects such as education institution, e-commerce, and healthcare provider. I participate in software develop life cycle, develop test case, test scenarios, requirements, traceability matrix, reports, effectively communicated with developers, clients, managements, and QA team. I also have an academic background to be able to add value in this position and contribute in the team really quickly. I did whatever it took to get the problem solved as quickly and efficiently as possible. And I have experience in basic of Java, HTML, and CSS. And I believe I'm a high achiever, and I always receive positive feedback from my managers and supervisors in my previous roles. And I always support my coworkers in the execution of their duties. If the company will hire me, I will be the type of worker who will always go above and beyond for what is expected from my work. I will always embrace change positively, and I will make sure the company will see positive return on their investment. And about my project was a web-based application. It is communication and collaboration platform where the healthcare provider to communicate with security with patients via security and private group text messaging. This about me, about my projects. That's all.
All right, Adeel, Nasif.
Yeah, Nasif, you want to go first this time?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for that introduction. Really great stuff. So I think, someone looking for their first role, you're going to be asked a lot of hypotheticals. You're going to be asked about the projects that you have worked on. And so they're probably going to want to know how you would interact with other folks, and how, what you've currently done, and what experience you have in the workforce in general, how that's going to translate to the software environments. So here's a question I'll throw at you. As a QA engineer, as a first-time QA, you're probably going to be thrown into a lot of meetings, where you're meeting with lots of different other QAs, lots of other developers and project managers, and other stakeholders. Are you someone that feels comfortable enough to be able to, with public speaking and speaking out during meetings? Because in a certain capacity, you are going to be representing QA, right? You're going to be representing what QA is doing across the board. Is that something you feel comfortable doing? Communicating, issues, communicating, your current status, communicating, what you need. Do you feel like those skills you possess, and do you feel that that's something you're comfortable doing?
Yes. Yes, I communicate with my team all the time, and with project managers about a project, about our process, and when I review test plan or user stories. I communicated a lot of time with business analysts and developers. And it's comfortable for me because it is our job, and we should communicate a lot of time altogether.
Awesome. Can you talk, and last question from me, and then I'll throw it off to Adeel. Can you talk a little bit about the types of applications you've used? You know, what type of bug tracking software have you used? What type of just test applications you use in general? I think that would be something that would be really important to know. You know, given someone with your experience, you know, they'd want to know. It'd be important to know how much exposure you have to pretty, commonly used industry standard applications.
Yes, we used Jira management tools for bug reports, for dashboard, and for user stories. And for test cases, I used test trial. And
Thank you.
Yes, for all the documentation. We held in Confluence page.
Yeah, I was looking for Jira. I was looking to see if there's Jira in there, because that's, you know, it's pretty widely used. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Cool. So Anne, thank you for stepping up and doing this. Cool. First question for you is, you mentioned that worked on this program, you touched based on some of your technical skills. Maybe can you summarize for me, what do you think are your top 3 technical skills that you feel comfortable with?
Oh, I'm comfortable with mostly focusing on functional and user interface testing, comfortable with manual testing, and comfortable with SQL. It's a backend testing, with API testing, with web service testing, web browser testing. It's on testing on different browsers, and mostly focusing, yes, on web application. Is comfortable for me.
Okay. Tell me, talking about cross-browser testing, tell me about, have you ever found a bug that was only, that was only manifesting itself on a particular browser? Tell me a little bit about that situation.
I testing on different browser because sometimes if I found some bugs on, for example, on Firefox, it is maybe just bugs on this web browsers, and I try to reproduce on another browsers like Google Chrome, on Safari, it's on popular browsers in this time, and if I follow this bug, it is a real bug, and it's when I reproduce that, and I start first I ask developers, is it bug, or is it work like this functionality or not? And if developers say me, yes, it is work, it is should be work without this functionality. It's sometimes maybe it's critical bugs. It's when the page is crashed. I see that it's a page crash. I created bug reports.
Okay, so this is, so you found bugs doing cross-browser testing. You use as an example, you found some issues in Firefox that were not happening other places. To backtrack a little bit, how do you determine which browsers to test with?
If I understood your questions, you mean how can I know, how can I introduce this bug on the bug reports, or
No, my
No.
question is how so there so there are a lot of browsers out there, and for
Mhm.
all of those browsers there's a lot of versions out there, like to use something like Firefox could be on Windows, could be Linux, could be Mac. You have Edge, I have older versions of unsupported Internet Explorer, Safari, mobile, right? You have all these different combinations of browsers you can test with. Obviously, it's not possible to test with all of them. So how do you determine how do you determine which browsers to test? If you have a particular test case or a story, how are you determining it?
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, I first of all, I check on test plan what browser we used. What is important browsers and devices. We have in test plan we have environments. We have which browser we should first test it. Because sometimes maybe it's out of the test, it's maybe some browsers not in the test in the sprint, and I check user stories.
Mhm.
And communicate with developers and QA managers. We decided about that on meetings.
Nice. And just my final follow-up question on cross-browser testing is, do you use any tools to do cross-browser testing? Do you have experience with any tools for cross-browser testing?
I used I tested on Mac, on Windows, on I test on just the browsers like Firefox and Safari, Google Chrome, Edge, and I test on Android 10, web-based application on Android 10.
All right, cool, awesome, thank you.
Thank you for answering.
I have another question. Can you tell me how would you test, let's say Google, not Google, let's say Facebook web page interface when you're logged in and you have feed, right? When the main page of Facebook page, what would be your approach?
How can I test this?
How would you test?
Yeah, how would I test? I forgot about Facebook. Sorry,
okay, you know what? Let's make it easier. Oh, hold on.
No.
Let's make it easier. What is your favorite application or web site you are using?
Okay, it's I love Amazon.
I love it too. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Okay, Amazon. Let's imagine you signed up, you logged in, and you're on the main web page of Amazon on the web browser, right? On Chrome, for example, right? Can you tell me your approach? How would you start testing this main web page?
I understood you. First, I can ask about requirements and what is the requirements for this page. What is the scope of the business resource? Yes, and what is the functionality? If it is ad hoc testing, or it is maybe exploratory testing, maybe I know about this functionality. For example, I know about this functionality, okay? And I have some documents. I know about this, and I read about this. I just do exploratory testing. I check first validate data. For example, for registration, I check login. It's an email, maybe it's with valid data, email, password, text box password, email text box, and I maybe with if it's I think it's the first page. It is email and password, and
not really, right? So
no,
let's make it visible. Here's
okay,
the.
yes.
Are you able
Maybe
to see?
address, yes, address, all valid data, address, maybe phone, text box, and it's and I check a valid clickable button with send. It says clickable or not, and I have checked how this application is submitted or not. After I check performance testing, it's how many boundary testing, how many symbols or letters can I enter into a text box? I mean, in a login text box or in a password text box. And I will do for negative testing. It is invalid data, how this application will work with invalid data, where with maybe with black. If I left blank text box with password, how the application will be working. And in performance testing, I check how long this application will submitted and navigate me on another page. I think that's it.
Not exactly like, and that's why I shared the screen, right? Were you able to see the screen?
Oh, 1 second. No, I don't see.
Okay, okay. Never mind. Don't worry about that. It's just maybe a technical thing. Are you talking with us through the phone or through the laptop?
Phone, yes.
Oh,
now,
okay.
yeah.
Doesn't really matter. By the way, guys, next time when you're going to mock interview, obviously whoever want to participate, make sure that you're gonna be on the laptop, because sometimes you need to share your screen. Sometimes you may ask, you may be asked to share your screen and demonstrate something, right? So just be prepared. But don't worry about that. Yeah, I don't have any other question, Nasif.
I don't have any further question, but I think it just for the sake of everyone asking questions about that specific question Adeel had about cross-browser testing is, I think the answer that folks would and you know, I think different hiring managers would have different perspectives or different ideas on this, but personally, I think the answer that I would look for is that if someone asks you, hey, how would you test this web page, or how would you test this particular tool? I think the answer that, you know, and you kind of started to kind of go down the right path on this, but I think maybe your answer got a little, it maybe started to shift off road a little. But I think the answer should be that you should, number one, first and foremost, come in with an organized approach, right? You have your test plan, assuming before you test, you have a test plan ready to go, right? You have a test plan that kind of is going to guide the path that you're going to go. Now, you know, if you're doing a regression test, you know, where you're just testing from end to end to make sure everything's working, you know, you can start at one place and end somewhere. But I think when you're testing something, no matter what, you should have a plan of action. Follow your test plan. Your test plan should be organized based off of, you know, and something as big, as large as Amazon. There's obviously, you know, if you think of the engineers that work at Amazon, I'm sure they have different suites and different test plans that pertain to different features and different tools. So I think planning goes a long way. That's the thing you want to do first and foremost, right? You want to make sure that you have a plan in place that outlines how you're going to go about your testing, because ad hoc testing, I think it makes sense in the space of regression or just full end-to-end testing, or just mob testing in general. But again, you want to have a plan that outlines, okay, this particular feature, these navigation menus, I'm going to hit them all at once, and then I'm going to move into something else. And then after you kind of run through all of the main components on the UI, there's also integration testing that's going to take place, right? You want to make sure that you're able to check how those features interact with other features. And so I think so I think it's really all about planning. I think we're coming in organized and coming in with a clear plan in place. That's really going to help guide your testing. You never want to go in there and just start clicking random things and looking at random things. You want to know what it is you're going to be doing beforehand. And again, always refer to your user story, or refer to the pull request, or refer to the product manager. And again, I think hiring managers and potential colleagues want to know that you feel comfortable enough to ask questions. If you're confused about what to test, always be sure that you're comfortable enough to ask questions or confident enough, because they want to know that if this person gets stuck doing this particular task, that they know how to kind of shift and navigate around that blocker and ask questions. And that kind of speaks to your communication level and how well of a communicator you are. So that's just my answer. Again, it's going to vary different, from manager to manager and just from people, interviewer. But again, I think, the answer I would look for is just making sure that you're organized and you have a plan.
Yeah, thank you for your answer. I had some of these questions on my real interview, and I start to say, I started review requirements, and I started review test plan users, and my manager, as the manager who is interviewed me, he said, no, we don't have for example, we don't have anything. What you will do? And now I have confused because I think if I start talking about our process, our process, maybe you say, oh no, it is not enough. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
You'll get comments like that, right? Sometimes people are going to say, you know what, there's no test case. What would you do? And that's kind of challenging a bit. They want to know what level of what kind of thinker are you? How deep is your thinking going to go? And at that point, I think the answer could also be that, hey, I'm going to look at what the priorities are. What do I know as far as prioritization is? What features are most likely to break this application or this tool? So in some way, you kind of have to make a judgment call, but at some point, they just really want to know that you kind of know what to do and know how to navigate your way around it. You're not just going in there clicking random things and just doing things ad hoc. They want to they're looking for some level of organization, some level of comprehensive critical thinking. And so be mindful of that and be mindful of that. And again, that's a question that can kind of throw you off a little bit, right? You might feel a little nervous, like, oh, I don't know how to answer this. I'm just going to say X, Y, Z. So think of ways that, that you can impress them, with your critical thinking and just, try to be smart about it. And again, I think you are on the right path. Just maybe a little practice will definitely go a long way.
Yeah, let me add here something. Totally agree with Nasif about organizational structure. So when I shared with you the Amazon webpage, unfortunately, you wasn't able to see it because he was on the phone. But it may happen during the interview. Just randomly, they would ask, "Okay, let's do a little exercise. Here's a webpage, or here's a tool, or here's anything. But can you come up with a strategy and approach? How would you test this, right?" And this is most common mistake for beginners, because they're trying to throw anything they know, and instead of like look at the page or look at the object that needs to be tested, and to think, okay, let me think through. So what do we have? Do I know this application? And you know, right? Amazon, who doesn't? So everybody knows. You would see like, okay, I need to structure this thing, how I can divide, because it's a huge application. There's 10,000 testers working on this, right? And so you cannot just, okay, I would test this, and just random list. You need to specify, right? Like divide and conquer, divide the functionality of the page. Okay, and then you can ask a specific question. You know, there's a million of test cases can be here. This application, as far as I see, divided on this functionality, this functionality, this functionality. We obviously we have to write test plan for each specific areas, and then you can dive deeper into specific areas where like you can talk and suggest with interviewers like, I think we can start with some generic, right? Let's say the navigation bar, which is also like a huge, and go, right? But be like step by step with organizing way, and it show your like mindset that, okay, you're not doing the ad hoc random thing, right? And this is not something that interview want to hear. They want to hear like, you know what you're doing, you know how to do this, and yeah, that would be it.
Yeah, take control of the situation, because sorry guys, if they're telling you, hey, we don't have a test plan, just what would you do? They're looking for, take control of that opportunity and then make it your own. You know, think, okay, tell them that, if they're saying, hey, no test plan, don't say, okay, well, I'm going to start at so-and-so. Take control and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do if I'm doing a regression test that's going to span from end to end. So again, take charge of the situation, you know, and I think managers will be impressed by that.
Oh, okay, thank you guys for your tip.
Yeah, cool. Really good discussion. I didn't want to forget my feedback for Anne. Can I go ahead?
Yes.
And I thought just being very new, like, I'm not surprised you're already getting interviews, because your opening was very crisp. I liked it. You spoke confidently. Seems like you've practiced a lot, so I like that a lot. Little bit of feedback on your opening, and this, again, I don't think this hurts you, but this is definitely subjective. But my idea would be, if you want to convey, I think the word you used, a high performer, if I remember correctly, don't tell me, show me. Maybe put in some examples of a tough project or something that will have more impact than you saying, I'm a high performer. That was what the other thing I really liked about it, about your answers, was when you weren't sure, when I was asking these set of questions around cross-browser, when you were not sure, you were very direct about it. You were not trying to look for words. So I appreciated that. That's exactly how you want to, if you don't understand the question, you want to just say, hey, can I get more information? If you don't have experience with a particular tool, you want to be, first and foremost, you want to be very, just very direct with that. And what that does is, as the interview is happening, and in general, when we're talking to each other, right, we're looking to establish credibility of somebody who we don't have a relationship with. So those things go a long way. So I really like that.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Nasif, do you have feedback?
No, I think Adeel nailed it, but yeah, I think it's just be specific in your examples. Absolutely, you definitely want to be as specific as you can, because you don't want to leave the interviewers needing to ask more questions about one original question, right? They ask one question, you don't want to have them have to ask you the same thing in a different way, right? So be as specific as you can, and then be concise and just clear. I think the only feedback I have, as far as the question that Adeel had asked about, you know, how to narrow and scope your browsers, you know, because there are like 7 different active browsers right now. So I think you kind of gave a really good answer there, where you said that you're going to look to the ticket or the Jira story or the user story, and I think there's a when it comes to troubleshooting and trying to figure out what path to take. Definitely before you want to explore all your avenues, and you want things that I think answers because I'll ask you, how do you normally how would you go about this situation, and something like that. Again, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, is planning, making sure you have a plan in place, referring to the documentation that's been presented, using the resources that you have, and whether it's a Jira story, whether it's a GitHub pull request, or if lastly you're going to a product manager asking for more clarification on scope. I think it's just give the impression that you're comfortable communicating and asking questions, and you're always striving to learn more. So I think that's you want to be inquisitive, and you want to give off those vibes to your interviewers, because they want to know that in addition to your skills, they want to know that you can figure things out on your own. You know how to you're a self-starter, and that you're able to really navigate your way around problems. So again, I think Adeel nailed it. Just be as specific in your examples, and just be organized in general. Kind of going back to what I was talking to Anastasia about, is come in with notes. Come in with a set of notes and a plan of action when you come to these interviews, because they're gonna want to ask questions. They're gonna want specifics. So yeah, just good preparation will definitely go a long way.
Okay.
But overall, you did a great job.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
By the way, Adeel, how would you answer that question about cross-browsing that you were asking?
Yeah. Let me touch on that a little bit, and feel free to chime in as well. When the question I asked around cross-browser testing, there are a couple of things there. One is if you're very junior and you're starting out, I think the answer to say, like, I would look at the test plan, I would ask our product owner, or I would ask a QA manager. Those are very acceptable answers. But as you do go up in seniority, you want to because you'll be tasked with, you might also be the first QA person on a team, right? Something that the product may already be live, whatever the case may be. The answer you're really looking for there is you really want to tap into your experience on that. Is like, even if at your current jobs, figure out how would you do it if somebody didn't tell you, or there wasn't an established process. And how you would do it is, if the application's already live, maybe you would start by looking at analytics. What are your customers using? Like, that's number one. If your customers are using Safari on mobile, that should be the number one thing you're testing with. If your customers are using something else, and also with this, and this is as you get more senior, then there are trade-offs as well, right? You may have, Firefox may be less than 1%. Do you have the bandwidth to really test Firefox? Right. There are two more things I want to touch on really quickly around cross browsers is around tooling, right? Be familiar with, whether it's automation or manual, be familiar with cross browser test tools, because most of us are not in the office, so you don't have access to a machine, and you can sign up for free trials on these things to use browser stack, Sauce Lab, AWS Device Farms. You have all of these choices, so be familiar with those, because that will be handy, especially if you're targeting jobs that are focused on web-based applications. Lastly, there was Tammy mentioned about mobile. Mobile is very interesting when it comes to cross-browser. I would say, if you're being asked situational questions around mobile testing, first thing you want to do is you want to clarify, is it a native mobile app or mobile web? Those things make a difference. And within that, there's a lot of nuances as well, right? Preferably you want to use a real device. But again, these cross-browser platforms can give you access to a real or a virtual device. So those are things you want to look at. And lastly, I would say you can also emulate mobile. If the answer is about web browser on mobile, you can also emulate that on desktop. Understand the pros and cons if you're going to be suggesting that and doing this in answers during an interview, but understand the differences, but also understand that that is a resource to you. You can use browser dev tools to emulate sizes of different devices, and you can test it that way. It's not going to be exact, it's not going to be perfect, but those are all options. So that was just my real quick 2 minutes answer on cross-browser testing. But I would say do your research on this topic, because it's a very deep topic.
Yeah, totally. I would say also, like, adding to your guys' feedback. Listen to interviewers, because I know that it's again, like, this very common mistake from beginners who are just starting journey in QA, or who is looking for the first job, because they have their knowledge in their head and they try to spit it out, everything that they know or what they learned, right? So when, again, like when Adeel asked about cross-browsing question, the start was good, but it went to another direction, right? So he was trying to cover, and very similar thing was when I asked about how would you test, right? You start throwing like whatever you know, and try and avoid this, because this is so basically what I'm saying is answer the question that you've been asked and don't say something that you haven't been asked. That's a general rule, like it apply everywhere, right? So yeah, anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining. Do we have people from Los Angeles? So we have a not mock interview. We're gonna have on February 23rd the real meetup in person at company channel where Adeel is working, and we inviting you guys join us, whoever in Southern California. Should be fun. Register on meetup.com. And another thing that I want to add, that it's something like, if you stayed to the end, I'll tell you, we're gonna have a pilot program for the mock interviews, for the mock interviewing, and I need your guys feedback. Was it helpful, the experience like that? Can you type something like in the chat? So yeah, I see it. So the idea that Adeel and I will have, and Nasif may also join to our journey. So interview process is not a one event thing, obviously, right? I mean, you all know this. You need to prepare, but at the same time, you need to practice, right? And this is what we're gonna do for 1 month. We're gonna practicing every week. Several times a week, and this is a pilot program, so I didn't announce it anywhere. I didn't add anywhere yet. This is going to be a limited group of not more than 30 people. So if you guys are interested in participating, and the purpose of this is to kick it off, right? So if you're thinking, oh, I'm not ready for the interview, or vice versa, maybe, oh, I've been in interviewing so long and I don't know what's going on. Maybe I have some directions, or somebody is sitting at his desk at his work for several years and he said, oh man, I probably am not relevant anymore to the job market. What should I do? How do I start, right? And this is the program that we are developing, and you will be a part of it. When we're gonna meet, practice, and just, pumping your interviewing skills. And very similar activities like that. But I'll give you more details next Saturday. If you guys are interested, please ping me in this platform, interviewing, crushinginterview.com, in the direct message. Direct message me, and I'll add you to this group. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. If you guys have any questions, comments, please do so. We can have like maybe 10 more minutes for discussion, for answering questions. And yeah, stay tuned, guys. By the way, Adeel and Nasif, I wanna first of all thank you guys for doing this too. Again, like that's really helpful. I want to just have a comment, like, and just my observation, which is very interesting, right? The first interviewee, the first candidate, obviously she's from eBay, she's experienced, and she was also nervous, right? Like she was also nervous, like Anne or Anastasia, and but the direction and the questions was way different, right? Did you guys mention it? So with a second, with an N, right? We started asking questions like, how did you do this? Like being more specific to technical details. And I think this is because, and this is guys for you all, like, I think it's a good insight. When we see that person is experienced, we don't have doubts and questions like, oh, does he know what he's doing, or does it make sense, like his experience? But when we see a little bit off in the conversation and a little bit, I would say, especially for beginners, right? Because they can say something weird that doesn't make sense, and then okay, does he knows what he's talking about? And then it starts going to that direction when they, okay, can you tell me, like, how would you do this, how would you do that? The worst case scenario, what could be like when they start asking you like, oh, tell me what is regression testing, right? Or tell me what is I don't know, anything. That's my observation. How about you guys?
I think it's also I hope it's also a little bit difficult, I think, in this forum, not having a specific job. So it is a little bit difficult because you're coming up with questions on the fly. Because when in an actual interview, we'll have our questions written down because we want to be very consistent between what we're asking different candidates. So there's one part of it, but I think in general, it's a little bit true that if you're hiring for more junior roles, the questions will be more around specific situational questions, and a combination of, do they have a drive to learn and grow, and how much unknown they can roll with. But for more senior folks, any good manager is not really looking like, and there are plenty of bad hiring managers out there too. We're not really looking to interrogate somebody who's more senior, somebody who's more experienced. We're definitely not trying to interrogate them. So the questions will tend to be more behavioral, or they'll even be system design kind of questions. We want to see how they think about more complex problems, as opposed to a junior person. We really don't want to. We don't really expect, and we're not going to give them big complex problem like build me a framework from scratch. Is something you're going to ask somebody who's more experienced or senior. Somebody who's more junior, you're going to ask more like, what is your experience with CI/CD, and you might dive into those. So I think parts of it, what you're saying, is correct. I didn't even think about it, so it's probably like all in this session, especially, it's all probably subconscious bias.
Yep.
I would agree with that. Definitely subconscious. Like you kind of And the way I was thinking of it was, each of these candidates were giving, as they were giving their background, they were talking about their experience and their background and what they're looking for. I was kind of going with that, assuming, okay, Anastasia is looking for somewhat of a senior role, and then Anne was looking for something more, junior or sort of mid-level. So I was gearing my questions around that, and it's absolutely correct. Evgeny, what you said about I think it's the questions do vary based off of what their skill level is, and so I think with someone who has been in the market for some time, you kind of want to ask questions gearing more towards around what their experiences have been like, how they operate in that space and what they're looking to do next, versus someone who's kind of starting out. You kind of want to know how would they be a potential fit, how would they do well in these hypothetical situations and such. And so yeah, I think you absolutely nailed it. But again, I think Adeel, you did a good job, and again, you guys did a good job of like moderating and kind of navigating everyone around what type of questions to ask. And so yeah, I think you guys nailed it.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, guys, and love it. All right, guys. Again, like if you are interested to join, it's online. It's gonna be an online program. So obviously, meetup will be just in person, just for fun, but the program will start on Saturday. Ping me in direct message in the crushinginterview.com. I will add you to this hidden group. So yeah, again, this is going to be a focus pilot program with a focus group. So yeah, and I see there's coming more questions. Guys, post it in those questions in I'll open new thread Q&A. So post there also in crushinginterview.com. We'll answer them, because for example, time asking like how long should be the introduction, it could be from shorter better, but it should be at the same time like good enough to lead to the conversation, to following up questions, and we can talk about it next time. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for staying 1 hour and 32 minutes with us. That's a commitment on Saturday morning. And good luck with job search to anyone who is in the market and who is thinking to going on the market. And we'll do this mock interview event again, like next month on March, and we'll announce it here. Yeah, so I'm waiting, looking forward to see you guys next time. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.